BlogTalk Radio.
Hello, everyone. This is Chrism, and I'd like to welcome you to this program about your Kundalini awakening experiences. My name is Chrism, and I'm your host for this program. This program's 2 hours long, and I'd like to welcome everyone who is joining us in the chat rooms and the people that are calling in and the people that are listening to us on their laptops or their smartphones. Hello, everyone. I'd also like to give a shout out and a hello to people who are listening in the archives, the future people, and hello to all of you as well. And I'm just going to go ahead and jump right in on it. One of the hallmarks of the kind of a teaching that I give is called, in the Sanskrit language, it's called a Vajra, V-A-J-R-A, and a Vajra teacher. And Vajra means both diamond-like and lightning, and the Vajra teacher is going to illuminate your energetics, going to illuminate what they call the adamantine, the indestructible essence of nature. And it will illuminate that with direct energetic infusion, which they refer to as lightning bolts. And this teacher has been called the kind of teacher that you would hire if you were going to hire a teacher. The kind of teacher that you would hire to assassinate your ego. And this is from the Tibetans, from a lot of the Tibetan masters. You know, they assassinate your ego. This isn't exactly the way I see it, as many of you know through listening to the program. I am more of an educator of the ego, someone who changes that part of you into a supportive feature of your Kundalini awakening. But sometimes, you know, it takes the assassination of certain tendencies of the ego or thought patterns of the ego. One of the greatest forces of disinformation that our own ego provides us with is through taking specific information and projecting it upon ourselves in a way that is slightly altered in order to support the formation of an information or a direction. Wow, I'm getting all of these pings here. I think I'm just going to go out of these things here. A disinformation that supports itself and its supremacy within the individual self. It will give you the kind of a projection, and then it will add its own little twist to it. And that twist basically is in support of a fear or a greed or a quality of egotism that supports the ego but doesn't support freedom from the control of the ego. And this is something that is quite prevalent within our society. And we do need to be very, very careful in how we allow ourselves to be manipulated by our own ego. Many times a person will take the twisted information that the ego has given them and create a whole new level of reality based upon that twisted information, and it doesn't serve you well. What it does is it serves some of the negative aspects of the 5 koshas, or the 5 bodies of expression of the human being, and this just slows you down. This is tripping over your own feet in a real way. Tripping over your own feet. So think about this as you listen to this program today. Think about this, and think about whatever attitudes might come to this guy is saying this Kundalini person is saying this, calling himself a teacher, calling himself Vajra, calling himself all these things, and oh my God, there's that master word in front of his name, and oh my God, how egotistical is that? And he talks about getting rid of the ego, and yet he has the MSTER word in front of his name. And yeah, I didn't provide that for myself. That's not something that I asked for. That was just something that was given. And so I don't really attach to it. So you can call me anything you want. You call me, hey, you. Hey, you. I'll answer to that. But as the ego begins to confront forces that are asking it to change, the ego will put up a fight. And part of the fight is to take in levels of information and then change it just a bit in order to find the validation to fight it back, or to disrupt it, or to invalidate it, or to make it not true. And a lot of people are so well worn, I should say everybody who's not awakened is so well worn along the egocentric pathways that it takes quite a bit of mindfulness and attention to be able to spot where the individual ego is twisting a bit of information in order to invalidate an entire library of information. Okay, it just takes that little bit of invalidation, and then a whole level of knowledge is basically invalidated. And I want you to look inside yourself and see where you might be doing this as well. Look inside yourself and see where this might be happening. So, I'm going to continue here with the Vajra, and this type of teacher really is the person whose job it is to insult your ego. This person will insult your ego. This person will form an egoectomy. And the spiritual, it's a very, very spiritual redefining of the egotistic body, the body of the ego. And it's a heavy kind of teaching, because this type of teacher will help you have all your self-concepts ripped away. And, this kind of a teacher is a remover of darkness. The remover of the darkness of the ignorance that surrounds us within the five sense society. And so it's important, because this kind of a teacher would remove the cataracts of ignorance from your eyes. And it's not always easy to see the truth of oneself, in such a way. And yet with Kundalini, we pretty much need to do that. We need to have that experience. And so when you're working with a teacher like this, it's considered a direct path into enlightenment, a direct path into grace. But within the aspects of that direct path, it means that you try to recognize that your essential nature is the same as the guru's or the teacher's. And the teacher's job, this guru teacher's job, is to help you do that. That is the point. That is why I do this program. That is why I'm on Yahoo and Google Plus and Facebook and all these different areas. I guess the one place I'm not really that, one of the many places I'm not, is on Twitter. And I'm just not quite sure how to work that one, although I'm sure I could learn. But the guru's job is to really, really, really help you define the direct path into your enlightenment. This teacher really, this kind of a teacher will do whatever it takes to help you to realize your self-realization. This kind of a teacher is concerned with every area of your life. And this is something that I really want to repeat. I want you to get it. Every area of your life. Every secret, every thought, every sin, every victory, every aspect of your life, from your most secretive and hidden intimate scenarios to those that you boldly wear on the badges and the classifications of societal success. All of those is where this kind of a teacher would look and be notified of, and to be aware of. Kundalini does not. Nothing escapes Kundalini. The all-seeing eye is indeed that. It is an all-seeing eye. It sees everything. It sees every part of us. And that part of the all-seeing eye is shining through this kind of a teacher, and shining through the eye of the teacher as the teacher eyes you and your issues and begins to illuminate your personal scenario with that level of illumination. And so nothing is hidden. There are no secrets from this kind of a teacher. It's very important for you to understand that. You don't get to hide. You don't get to have privacy. You understand what I'm saying? You don't get to have privacy. And so you need to really, really, really understand that because the teacher's involved in every area of your life, and you don't ever get breaks from this type of process of the awakening of Kundalini process. You don't get any breaks. This is 24/7 all the time. All the time. They know about your job life. They know about your family life. They know about your friend life, your social life. They know what your fantasies are about. They know what your dislikes are about. They know what sins or mistakes that you've made in your life. They know everything about you. They know they know if you're cheating on your husband or cheating on your wife, cheating on your boyfriend, cheating on your girlfriend. They know everything about you, and you voluntarily submit this information to them. I mean, they can dig it out, but it's better if you voluntarily give that information. It shows a level of honesty and truth and forthcoming. And it really helps you, when you're trying to get into these areas. And your motivation for this, yours and your teacher's motivation for this are totally in agreement with each other. They are aligned because you both want the same thing. They want you, the student, to become self-realized, to have the Kundalini awakening. And they will do anything to have that occur. And they'll work with you in any area of the 5 bodies of life, the 5 bodies of human expression. Any area will be covered. And, that includes all these, secret, deep, dark, intimate areas of sex and self-expression through the physical medium, and emotional thinking, and mental progress, and egoic, psychological thinking, spiritual thinking, and all of the positives and negatives, the full spectrum of the human experience will be covered with this. And so you've got to understand how intimate this kind of a teacher becomes. They know you inside out, and they need to know you inside out. And you need to give them that knowledge. You can't hide anything. This kind of a teacher, this leads to a very, very different kind of a relationship with this kind of a teacher. It's a very, very close relationship. In many ways, it's a chela, Chela, relationship with a like a one-on-one chela relationship with a teacher, or what the Eastern people would call a guru or a master, which here in the West we would call a teacher. One thing should be made clear. This teacher really on some level is absolutely helpless. If you don't want to share the information, if you don't want to do the practices, if you don't want to live or walk the talk, the teacher can't force you to do this. This Kundalini awakening cannot really be forced on a person in a real way. I mean, you can definitely force a person to say have an accident, where the tailbone is damaged, and an activation can be given that way, or having, like in a torture session, like St. John of the Cross, as he's tortured, his Kundalini can be awakened, activated. But the awakening comes in a very, very different way. And the scenario is you never know if it was you that forced that activation on an individual, or that karma, the laws of karma working through you, where you're making the karma for yourself and they're just living an aspect of their own karmic destiny. You'll never know which one it was. Okay. So you can force an activation, but you really can't force an awakening. And so this teacher is a lot like Shiva, the ultimate sacred male, and the ultimate sacred male is like represents feeling and awareness and the reservoir of potential and destruction, and the student is a lot like Shakti, the active creative principle. Nothing can happen without Shakti, and so you really, really, if you're going to go into this type of a teaching relationship with say a Vajra teacher, you really, really, this is one of the highest, and it, of course, it must be because of the forces that we're dealing with. We're dealing with divine forces. We're dealing with literal aspects of divinity, of God. The real deal, ladies and gentlemen. This is not for lightweight consideration. This is not, Jesus loves me, yes, I know. This is very, very strong. This is very tactile, impeccably honest, totally truthful, and extremely life-changing and extremely ego-shattering. It's a constant level of redefining of the ego, and this within the first couple of years, this is really something that people are, they have a big problem with. Week after week after week, it's ego redefinition. Month after month after month after month, it's the arguing, the screaming, the crying, the resentfulness, the vengefulness, the resistance, all of the tools that the ego has at its hand, railing against this type of redefinition. Be very, 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 very sure and very committed before you begin to endeavor a relationship with this type of a teacher, because it can be brutal, absolutely brutal. So I just want you to know that. And I wanted to just kind of bring that into the conversation today. The Vajra teacher is nothing to just like kind of go, oh God, oh my gosh, the Vajra teacher can give me the Kundalini. Well, they can indeed. They can indeed give you Kundalini. But let me tell you, having Kundalini is very different from wanting Kundalini. And typically, the Vajra teacher will not just hand over Kundalini, just for the asking of it. Because the Kundalini won't treat you that way. The Kundalini will change the way you see your environment. It will change the way you react to your environment or interact with your environment. It changes it tremendously. In a huge way, the Kundalini begins to you'll literally, it's almost like visually you'll have a pair of sunglasses on and like when I have the Shaktipat on people, they'll see life a certain way. But if I were suddenly in the middle of a Shaktipat to take that away, they would see their day or night in a completely different way. I have tested this out. It does exactly do that thing. You need to really, really, really understand that just because it may come on gently at first, but it'll be increasing ever after that as you do the work, as you do the assignments, as you follow the instructions of the Vajra teacher. very important for people to understand that this is how things go. I can work with you, over Skype. It doesn't matter. There's very few limitations. Sometimes all I need is a name, and it doesn't even need to be the whole name. Kundalini knows. Kundalini knows the source of the information coming into the Vajra Teacher. It knows everything about that person. And it gives the Vajra Teacher the kind of information that he or she needs in order to work with that person in the most effective way for their enlightenment to proceed, or to be reconfigured, or to enhance, or to pull back a little bit if the person's going into too many energetic structures all at the same time. Okay, so I want you to know this. Your head pressures, the pain that you feel in your body can all be mitigated, but it won't necessarily be so. Sometimes you need the pain in order to move through a specific area in your life. And of course, so since we're talking about pain, then off you go to the emergency room in the hospital. Oh my gosh, I got pain in my head, I got pain in my joints, I got pain in my teeth, I got pain in my tongue, I got pain in my digestive tract, my heart is going so fast and I can't slow it down. All these different types of Kundalini phenomena. And they may schedule you for surgery. Well, I guess, it sounds to me like you've got this kind of a situation here, and we're just going to have to cut that out of you. We're going to have to replace your head. That's what they told me. You need a brain replacement. No, I never went to the hospital. Because having worked with doctors, I know how error prone their diagnoses can be. So yeah, you need to really, really look at this. Look at it strongly. And I see that David is typing a question or a response to that. So David, please type away. When you're inside of the energetics of this type of a teacher, it can be very, very lightning prone. And this, of course, it's so hard. I'll give a person an instruction, and their ego will just as quickly hear the instruction, twist it, and create a whole new Maya-prone idea about what that instruction is. And if it deals with something that is very close and personal to the student, the ego will do that over and over and over and over again. They will fall, if it's greed, well, then they'll fall into that level of greed over and over and over again. If it's jealousy, well, jealousy is all about being abandoned or being replaced or being whatever. Competition, these types of things. Then it'll go back to jealousy again and again and again and again. And you can make agreements till the cows come home, but that jealousy is just going to keep coming back until that individual deals with their fear of abandonment or their interest in competing and being better than somebody else, or having a some sort of a relationship valuation that they can feel comfortable with. But if the Vajra Teacher tells you to do something else, your ego may resent that, and it may really, really stoke the fires of jealousy even higher. And it looks like David has finished typing, but I don't see anything here. So I'm going to go ahead and I would like to present my co-host. She is from the Emerald Isle, and she is the reason why this show exists is because she supports it. She pays for it. She makes all the noise when she's going into the red. And I just want to say welcome to the program, Amelia Centaur.
Thank you, Chrism. Good to be here.
Oh, boy. Sounds like you've got another. I can hear you, but it's going, thank you. You sound like an electronic sheep. Try it again. Say thank you, Chrism.
Can we
It's good to
check
be
in
here.
the
Okay, it sounds good. Sounds good.
chat?
Oh boy. Yeah, go ahead. Chat room. Can you hear Amelia clearly and concisely?
Hi, everyone in the chat room.
Oh my God. Go ahead, my dear. We'll just have to work with it. We'll just have to work with it here.
Anyone typing? No.
Nope, nobody's typing it. I'm not even sure they're hearing it. I'm going to ask if they're hearing us.
Good.
Oh, okay.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so you can hear me okay as well then. Good, good. Well, it's good to be here, Chrism. Thank you very much. I'm just okay.
Yes.
Well.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, have you experienced Chrism as your teacher for a while now?
I have indeed. Chrism has been my teacher for quite a while now.
And what does the Vajra explanation kind of confirm your experiences?
It does actually, and I don't know that that term. I haven't heard it before. So,
That's the first time
so what you're saying? Yeah. What everything that you said resonates. I can well understand as much as has been my experience with you as my teacher, Chrism. I've actually got a video, I think, on YouTube called Chrism as a Teacher, where I speak about the ego and how, you totally disregard it and how difficult that is. So everything you said there, I can understand and relate to because that has been my experience.
Oh, okay. Andrew is also saying that you sound good now. So I guess it was just a rocky start with your technology over there. So
okay, thanks, Andrew.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone who's responded. Appreciate it. All right. Now I know that Indra has a question, and so I'm going to go over here to our caller, putting you in the blue, Santara, and going to go over here to Indra and see what Indra has to say. Hello, Indra.
Hi, Chrism. How are you?
Doing well, thank you. And yourself?
I am fine, thank you. I really enjoyed that teaching. I want to say it was very fulfilling.
Well, you're very welcome, my dear. Absolutely.
Okay. So my question today is, I'm going to try to make this simple as possible. Throughout my process, I noticed that energy came into my body from the bottom of my feet and the palm of my hands. However, there was my left ear, right ear, where energy was flowing out of my body. Is there a meaning to that?
Your ear?
Yes, my left ear and right ear. It seemed as though energy was flowing from inside out.
Oh yeah. And with actually the ear is a two-way passage. Things come in and things go out as well. That could be the energetic representation of a sensorial outreach of energy from the ear. Sending out, you might say, tendrils that attract specific sound that the Kundalini brings in by virtue of sending itself through the ear canal out into the multiverse, and then bringing back specific psychic type of sounds or ethereal types of sounds or celestial music or any of a kind of many different sounds and information that a person would have that the Kundalini would like them to have come through their ear canal. So that's one thing. And as far as having and experiencing the energy through the palms of the feet and the palms of the hand, well, that is one of the vectors where it can come up in those areas. And if you were a Christian, the palms and the areas of the feet might even start to bleed because of the nails, being into the Christ. And so, what you say is really, really abundantly true. The ear will send out a wavelength or a frequency of energy that is designed to attract very specific sounds. And the Kundalini is what programs this energy to attract very specific levels of audio phenomena for the person.
Wow. Wow. Thank you. I wanted to ask another question, if time permits.
Sure.
Okay. So throughout my process, there was a salty taste in my mouth. Almost like when you eat a mouth-watering dish. Wait. Have that.
Back it up. You cut out again. Ask the whole question over again, please.
It's, oh my God, makes sense. Okay, sorry. Hello?
I'm here. Go ahead.
Yeah, so and it's like almost like a spritz. It's not a fluid because it's not thick.
No, honey, you've got to ask the question over.
Okay, so throughout my process, there was a salt-like, I don't want to say liquid because it wasn't thick. It was like a spritzy, almost when you eat a mouth-watering, you have that stimulation in the taste buds.
Okay.
So I had that taste, that salty taste, and throughout my whole process.
Okay. Did it taste a little metallic?
Yes, absolutely.
Did you feel it coming from the back of your throat?
I feel it coming mostly from my tongue.
Right. Well, there are two ways you can go with that. Now, the Amrita, which is the what some people like to call sweat from the pineal gland, they're giving credence to there being a channel that goes from the pineal gland into the sinus membrane, and from the sinus membrane to the back of the throat. And if you do the Kachari Mudra, you can pick up that exudate from the pineal gland, and from there, you're reaching into more of the physical-based, tactile levels of the Kundalini experience. But also just the tongue itself. The tongue itself can sweat in a way and allow very specific fluidic properties to come forward that will help with the person that is, especially from the tongue tip. When you put the tongue tip to the roof of the mouth behind the upper front teeth, that can act as a master switch. And as that master switch goes on with that connection, you can have very, very, very specific levels of salty, metallic type of a taste sensation come to you. Almost very, very, what's the word looking for? A very savory type of.
Yes, very much so. That's the word.
And yeah, that can occur definitely, and it is part of the Kundalini, and it is part of the process of the lingual area connecting with the 5 points of contact on the soft palate in the upper portion of the oral cavity.
Right. Wow. Well, thank you so much.
Enjoy, my dear. Enjoy, and when you taste that, go right into gratitude. Say thank you.
Okay.
Kundalini,
what's the point of it?
The point of it is to continue your evolution within grace, and it's the same as a kriya, almost like a how do we say it? A kriya of of the digestive tract. It would be a digestive tract kriya.
Right. Okay. Got it.
You've got to remember the digestive tract, really, like if you look at the intestines, they are a massive coil for prana and chi energy, a massive, massive coil. And so then you have the Kundalini come up, and the Kundalini, comes up, through your fifth chakra, and you connect your tongue to the master switch right behind those upper front teeth, and your saliva begins to be changed. The saliva begins to have an electrical change within what it is. It changes in its consistency.
Very much so.
It changes in the way it tastes. It has a very savory quality. And in many ways, as you swallow the saliva, those changes that happen from the fifth and the sixth are transferred down to the third, second, and first.
Wow. Okay.
It's kind of like the Kundalini can be seen as a self-activating consciousness. It constantly is sending out different hormones, different fluids, different thoughts, ideas, and different secretions into the bloodstream and into the digestive tract, and into the flesh and into the bone, into the marrow, into all of these areas of the body, as a way of constant Shaktipat, self-induced Kundalini Shaktipat, as the Kundalini spreads itself and defines itself within the different systems of the body. And this is what that is doing.
Right. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
It's always a pleasure.
Thank you for your excellent question.
Thank you. Okay, so...
What was that? Oh, my gosh. Cut you off there. What was that? Say again, you will what?
I will stick around and listen to the show.
Okay, very good, very good. And putting you into the blue here. And if anybody else has a question that they would like to ask, I'd invite them to call in area code 347-934-0026. That's a New York City, United States area code, and it's 347-934-0026. You feel free to call in. And for those of you that are listening on Facebook, because of the beautiful help that Centaur gave to the Facebook group, so I want you to feel free to call that number as well. And I see we've had some activity. David says on the chat room, he says, I liked what you had to say about the ego resistance to the teachings of the Kundalini and the teacher. I was wondering if this is more prevalent in those rushing their activation awakening process. Not always, David. I get what you're saying, though. I get what you're saying. When people are storming the gates of heaven, they have no idea. They've basically been running off of the idea that if I try hard enough and if I, smoke this or drink this or take that and I can hallucinate my way into the Kundalini and say it works, say they go ahead and they get the Kundalini activation, but they never realized all the ego redefinition that has to occur. I can see what you're saying, but it's not always that case. Often when people come into the Kundalini, naturally, it's their time, they still don't realize the amount of ego redefinition that has to occur. And, it can really confuse them because they're being asked to do everything that society says is wrong. Not everything, but, a large portion of it goes right over the lines of appropriateness in Western society, to be sure. And so they're questioning that, and their ego is questioning that. The ego, of course, is that programmed self from birth. You're programmed from your education and your religion and your social interaction with other people, what's right, what's not right. You open the doors for girls, You offer your hand for a handshake, and all of these different things that we grow up with and are programmed with, and things of that nature. And the Kundalini just steps right over and says, no, now you're going to do it a different way. And the ego is going to see that it's not being fulfilled, and it's going to resist. And I don't care if you've been in this process for 20 years, if you're still resisting the Kundalini, well, you're going to be in that process for another 20 years or so, until you begin to get off of the understanding that the ego is the boss. The ego is not the boss anymore. Not for Kundalini people. Okay? But yes, you're, for those who are rushing the activation and awakening process, or that the Kundalini within them is forcing them to rush, they're going to scream a lot louder, and they're going to need some of that oil for that squeaky wheel, much more. It's kind of like running a motor at high RPM. Well, you're burning more oil, you're burning more fuel, the lubricants have to be increased, the fuel has to be increased, the cooling areas have to be increased because you're running at a higher RPM. Well, that's a fairly good analogy with some of these Kundalini continuums that we're talking about with different people. If what you said, David, a person is rushing their activation or awakening process, well, they're running that engine at high RPM. They're running at like 7,000 RPM. And, for a typical motor, that's pretty high RPM to keep it sustained. And so not only are you having to deal with the cooling system, the lubrication system, the fueling system, but you're also having to see how it's starting to wear and tear on the hoses, like say the radiator hoses and the cooling hoses. And, the hoses have to be looked at, and the fan has to be looked at. And all of these different areas of the engine or the human body have to be looked at. And if the ego keeps resisting it while it's running at high RPM, you're going to have problems because those areas will not be looked at. Those areas will not be looked at. And, it can cause problems. And so you must surrender. Surrender to the Kundalini. Listen to what it's telling you. If you have that Vajra teacher, then listen to what the Vajra teacher is telling you and obey. I hate to bring the O word into it, the obedience word, but it is a very, very, very constructive word because here in the West, the whole idea of hearing anybody tell you, obey, that's going to bring immediate egocentric response, immediate ego reaction. And so, of course, I try to use that in the teachings I give because as a Vajra teacher, that is my job. I am here to stir up that ego because the ego can be one of the most damaging components of the sleeping person's understandings. As I said before, it can create a reality just by twisting the comprehension of specific information. So I'll say the rose is yellow. I'll say, okay, David, the rose is yellow. And David's ego could go, oh, so is he saying that rose is yellow because it's the only color that rose can be? Or can it be a red rose maybe? Can it be a blue rose? Why is he saying that it's just yellow? Why does he feel like yellow is the only way that rose can be? I think he's wrong. I think I've seen red roses. I've seen pink roses. Roses are not always yellow. So I don't think it's yellow. I don't think you should listen to that teacher at all. But see what I'm saying? I'm kind of making a joke with that, but it's true. This is how it works. This is totally how it works. Let me give you another example of the ego. This I got from Santara. It's like, Santara, I think you need to meditate some more. Obey. It's like, oh, yeah, what do you mean obey? What? How does he come across saying that to me? I have children. I am married. I'm successful, I'm smart. How dare you say obey to me? It doesn't even think about the whole idea of meditation. The ego's going, obey? Oh my God, I can't. Why did he say that? Is so offensive. That is so disrespectful. How dare you say such a thing? I'm going to bring her on so she can defend herself. What do you think, Satara?
Well,
what do you think? Did I get that close? From
no.
a typical, from a typical ego viewpoint. I was just using you just as a joke.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the ego will definitely twist the information. And you're still having a little bit of a sound problem there. Sometime I'm going to put you in the blue. So David, you're absolutely right. And and I think there's more to be said. He says those rushing their activation waking process that may not have the ego refinement controls to be ready to further their process. And if entities play a role in this as well then, okay, yeah. And then you add in entities. Michelle, I just read that. Then you add in the entities, and the entities support what? What do the entities support? They support the ego. And then we'll just say with David and the Yellow Rose, the entities are going, oh, David, you're absolutely right. Those roses are not yellow. They are not yellow. And we agree with you. We totally agree with you. Not only that, we think they are red. We think they are red and pink, and they're not yellow all the time. They're just not. And I think he's trying to program your mind, David. I think he's trying to hurt you. Yes, that's right. He's trying to program you and control you and twist you up. Don't believe a word he says. Do not. You should leave this man. This man is totally corrupt if he's trying to tell you that rose is yellow. And you'll get a whole horde of these voices in your head saying, yeah, you don't want to believe that. Oh my God, this man is just so off his rocker. He is so crazy. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Don't listen to him, David. And that's how it goes. That's how it goes. And this can happen 24/7 for some people. Not all the Kundalini people have that kind of an entity education needed, but a lot of people will. And as you're vectored and tied into the egocentrism to a specific degree, those entities will come up and support that egocentrism. They're waiting for that. That is what they do. That's their job, is to continuously try to corrupt a person out of the enlightenment or off of the enlightenment path, off of the path towards Kundalini. It's very important for you to realize this, to understand this. And I'm going to come back to Santara. Hopefully her sound is a little bit improved. I don't know if it just starts and stops. I don't know how that goes. Hi, Santara.
Hi, Chrism. How is it now?
Oh, that's better. That's better. It's much better. Okay, and so let's see.
I moved a little bit.
Oh boy, there it goes again. Are you changing your distance from the microphone or anything? Oh, never mind. Can you begin to ask the questions?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So and I've asked people on the chat room to let us know if my sound is very bad. Okay.
Thank you.
There's a question, and it was sent. Okay, so here's the question.
Wait.
What stage of Kundalini?
Wait. Michelle says she's lost us here. So I'm just writing hello there, making sure that everybody's hearing us.
No, she's back again.
Okay. All right. Good. Continue with the question, please.
Okay, so the question is, what stage of Kundalini awakening accounts for the existential crisis the complete dissolution of the belief system?
Oh, well, that could be that could be the early part of the activation, really. That's one of the first things to go is the belief system. Or the Kundalini will cherry pick from areas of the belief system that support its presence within the individual. This happens a lot with Christianity. You know, the person can be a really, Jesus, what was that? The person can be a very, very strong Christian, and the Kundalini can forget about most of the King James Version and just go to some of the things that Jesus said, like, these things I do, you can do and more. Or, these gifts I have are of the Father, not of me. And these types of scenarios. And it can begin to really redefine the person's idea of Christianity and what Christianity represents. And it can really alienate you from the rest of the parishioners that you go with if you go to a parish, or your minister, your reverend, or your priest, because they are representing a very specific level of spiritual understanding that the Kundalini does not support. It's a level of Maya, or a level of illusion that religious authorities will try to push onto the population, but the Kundalini, not being under control of religious authority, begin to push forward a greater level of truth. And so what happens is the ego part of the individual will want to stay with things as they've always been. We're looking outside for enlightenment, not looking within, but looking outside. And God created the heavens of the earth, and, all of these things, and believing the whole entire catechism or the teaching of what that religious system is being taught. Whereas the other half of the human, or the other 4/5 of the human, is looking at that and going, no, absolutely not. This isn't true. I know this now. I know this now that these teachings are not true. Some of them, like when Christ said, these things I can do, you can do and more. Well, that is true. These gifts I have are of the Father, not of me. And this is also true. But most of the other teachings are false. But the ego goes, well, wait a minute. We've had this since we were a child. We know that this is true. And this personality is based upon these truths, and you need to accept these truths. And the other 4/5 are going, no, this is no longer true for me. And so you have this dissonance within the individual, and that creates a spiritual crisis for the existential aspect of it anyway. Did you get that, Amelia?
Yes, thanks, Chrism. There's another question related to that. It's
Just a second, please.
Okay.
We're on the chat room here, and I am making no sounds on my. Yes, you were. Yes, you were. Absolutely. Well, it came from your end, and it was a big vibrating like electrical noise. So try to hold still if you can.
I am.
Okay,
I think it came from you. Okay, so the next part of the question is, I really need to hear, it's not the same question, but it's related. I would really like to hear an explanation as to what is happening me. I've been through this and come to a very sudden place of complete disconnect from personal identity and my spiritual beliefs. I feel only emptiness. It seems illogical to go through so much and come to this place of limbo.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Well, let me take the last part first. Kunalini has very little to do with logic. Logic is a programming that suits more of the scientific mind. It doesn't suit so much the intuitive mind. Logical Kundalini is not logical at all, unless it wants to be. Remember, we're dealing with a divine consciousness, not a computer. Okay, computers deal with logic. Kundalini deals with consciousness, and a divine consciousness to boot, which is so far beyond what we can even conceive as a concept within our mind. I mean, we can put a word to it, but that's about it. So if a person has come through, to a certain level where, they're very quiet, they're very alone, there's silence, that is not an accident. That is, tell me what her symptoms are again. She's having a spiritual crisis and an identity crisis too, right? So the identity.
Yes, and
go ahead.
it disconnects from her identity. She's disconnected from her personal identity and her spiritual beliefs.
Oh, very good, very good. Thank you for that, Amelia. And this is all basically the same thing. This is just basically the spiritual crisis turning into a identity crisis for the individual. You are not, within the Kundalini context, you are not who you think you are. And that's got to be made clear for people. You are not who you think you are. You are not, Chrism. You are not Amelia. You are not Rosemary. You are not who you think you are. You are of grace. And grace doesn't have the kind of an identity that an ego saturated world would create. You are God, and you are of God. You are a particle of grace. And this particle of grace typically isn't named Tommy or Rebecca or Chrism or Amelia or whoever. The particle of grace is, and it is self-aware, but it doesn't depend upon a name or a 5-sense physical reality consciousness for identification. And as you reach into this void of identity crises, just embrace the idea and the understanding that you are beyond ego identification. You are beyond ego identification, as that identification comes through a religious program or a scholastic program or a logical thought, A plus B equals C program, or the program of the egoic name, like Michelle Ranger, or anybody, the first and the last name David, that type of thing. I mean, you're beyond that now. You don't get to wallow in the ego-based identification system that we've grown up with. And who is this? This is this is a guest. 69175 says, sometimes ego dissolution and identity movement away from the personality can feel like it only leaves you with emptiness, like you are nothing sometimes. Like you are nothing. Sometimes I feel a depression or ennui. This can last a long time. I totally get what she is talking about. Yeah, and this is nothing to get depressed over. Depression is something that happens to you because your ego is resisting some aspect of it, and it doesn't feel natural to you. And so, depression and emptiness can feel a bit scary, and because you don't have control of it, that can make you sad. That can make you weary and leery of it, because you're not quite sure why it's happening and what's going on there. And so you go into a more of a egotistic state of feeling with regard to it. And you just need to understand that you are not who you think you are. You're not who your ego thinks you are. You are not that person. You are much greater than the small 5-sense ego personality that you come to recognize yourself to be for however many years you recognized it to be before you got the Kundalini. The Kundalini begins to open you up to the vastness of space, to the amazing levels of silence and emptiness that is out there, that is part of the active principle of a reality that is full of activity and movement. You have to have the stillness and the action at the same time. And 69175 says, weariness. Yes, but I always, comma, if I pay attention, comma, she is there to fill that space. Sometimes the joy of that new identity is overwhelming. That is the good part. The good parts are better than the bad parts are bad. Okay, don't disagree with you at all. 69175. Thank you for that excellent input about this. It's very true. I agree with you. And a lot of people come into this, and it scares them. Some people it scares much worse than either 69175 or the person that Centaur Kundalini is talking about. It can be so frightening. The void is spoken about in some of the literature as the, oh my God, you're in the void. The DNS, the Dark Night Soul. And all of the worst experiences of Kundalini activation can come to the fore, and it's like, oh my God, this is terrible, terrible, terrible. Oh, so sad for you. Here, have some Prozac, or some other type of thing. And you don't need it. You just need to accept the silence. Be okay with it. Be in love with it. And as 69175 said, Shakti is there to fill the space. And in many ways, you are there in the silence so that you can feel her. You're not listening to the wind in the trees, or the truck going by, or the motorcycle going by, or the hum of the refrigerator, or the washing machine, or the dishwasher, or the TV, or the person's stereo next door going on and on and on, or the dog barking, or the cat meowing, or any of these distractions. You're not listening to the sounds of life around you. She places you into the silence, emptiness, to allow you to hear her and to feel her, the sacred mother, the sacred Shakti. And it's not always her that will fill that space. Sometimes it's the sacred male too. He comes in, and he is giving you comfort and giving you information and helping you. But in many ways, in many cases, it's all about you being thrust into an environment that is unfamiliar. And when you're thrust into that environment, I mean thrust into it, meaning you don't get to go there by choice. You're thrust into that environment, and you have to learn how to live in a conscious fashion within that environment. You're not always going to be given things in the familiar way. The Vajra Teacher will give you things many times in a familiar way. Take that teaspoon and stir the tea, right? Well, okay, there's the teaspoon, and I'm stirring the tea with the teaspoon. These are all familiar concepts, all familiar things that you can use. This serves the ego very well. I know what a spoon is, I know what tea is, and I know what stirring is. I can do that. Well, when you're thrust into the silence, the great abyss of identity deprivation and spiritual deprivation, you don't really have any of the familiar reference points to hang on to. So you have to surrender that part. And you have to learn how to accept what she is giving you. You do have the knowledge that she is giving you something. Kundalini is giving you something. And you need to take heart and to take confidence and have love and gratitude for the teaching she's giving you, even if it is an unfamiliar one. Especially if it's an unfamiliar one. Those are the most important shifts outside of the addiction to the five sense reality. It's an invitation given to you by grace. And the unfamiliarity of it is the red ribbon on the beautiful gift. Enjoy it, feel it, revel in it. Be there with it. Feel if you can feel. Sense if you can sense. Change your perspective from one of fear to one of gratitude. And that will take you a much further distance with it. And coming back to Santara, and I have to say over.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Next question.
Oh boy.
Why is there no physical disintegration in yoga Nama's physical body after his death?
Yeah, the sound went out on Santara.
Am I gone?
Yeah. Repeat the whole question, would you please? Hello.
Okay. Why was there no physical disintegration in Yogananda's physical body after his death?
Okay, when Kundalini comes into a living body, as it did with Yogananda, the energy of the divine infuses every cellular structure. And the energy of the divine doesn't degrade. So the body will not rot. The microbes will not digest that body. The body is, in a sense, physically divine, and divinity does not have an expiration date. The same thing happened with Saint Bernadette from the whole Lourdes experience. You know, she came into the presence of the divine, I think, what was it, Amelia? 19 times? 19 times, I think. Saint Bernadette came into the presence of grace, and her body still has not rotted, and I think she died in 1858. So when the divine flesh is made, when the flesh is made divine, the flesh typically will not rot. And so it's a level of understanding that a person can, when they have a level of Kundalini come into them, a level of divinity come into them, the body will not degrade. Because the divine aspect of body defies degradation. Over. Wow.
Thank you, Chrism.
How come you keep taking yourself out of the red?
Will I go on to the next question?
Sure.
So the next question is, why I often have a dream that I have to appear for an examination and I have not studied the subject, although I graduated 44 years ago. Similarly, I have retired from my job, but I dream that I am transferred to an unknown place, or I am still performing my job. Can you tell me this about this, please?
Wow. Okay. All right. I understand you're having audio problems there. Try not to click yourself out of the red, okay, Amelia?
I'm going to click myself out of the red because I'm going to move now, Chrism, while you're answering that.
Oh, thank you. Okay. All right. This happens to the mundane individual too, but within a Kundalini person, it's a different scenario. It's like being on stage and being in a play and not knowing any of your lines. And this is an invitation to leave the conscious ego-based structures of memorization or of programming that you know how to do your job, or you know how to take a test, but you're struggling to know what it is the right answer is from an ego perspective, instead of allowing the download of information from the Kundalini or from the intuitive organs of sense that everybody has. And so as you struggle, you're struggling with the ego, basically, the addiction to the ego. Well, since I know I should know this because, this is the subject that I know, but here I am and I'm struggling to take this test and I haven't studied because, well, this is not, you don't understand that it's not the kind of test that you have to study for, but it's put in the same environment of the tests that you've had to do in the past that you've had to study for. This time, you open yourself to the intuitive function. You open your brain to receiving the information rather than already knowing through memorization the information. And memorization happens, whether it's something that you've studied, and so you develop memory engrams based upon it. And so by memorization, I mean that you've looked at it at least once, and so your memory is telling you, what the possible answer is for that equation. With the Kundalini, you don't get that front-loaded information. Now you have to just open yourself to what she wants you to do. And inside of the dream, it may be geared to embarrass you if you don't know the right answer. I mean, in other words, the pressure may be added through other psychological expectations of sociological function. So there may be added pressure to the individual within that dream state to get to the right answer using the same old function, when in fact the same old function isn't going to work for you in that scenario. And so she's teaching you to overcome your social programming, overcome your intellectual programming, overcome the way you have done things before, and embrace a new way of knowing information. Over.
Great. Thank you, Chrism. How's this sound?
Good. And let's see, David is right.
Okay.
He is saying, okay. David is saying, could you please speak about having trouble taking a full breath or shortness of breath when it comes to Kundalini heart activation? And could it be an energetic emotional blockage, and what can be done about it? Are you, David, doing intentional heart activation? I.e., are you trying to activate the fourth chakra? And David's answering that for the moment here. And Amelia, it seems like every time you take yourself out of the red and you put yourself in the blue, when you come back into the red, you get a very slow motion, sheep braying type of quality. So if you could stay in the red as much as possible, I think that might help it. And David says, no, but my wife experiences this and wanted me to ask. Well, does she have Kundalini is the real question. You believe so. Okay. Shortness of breath when it comes to Kundalini heart activation. Not really. David, if she's having emotional kriyas, and he says she's also getting emotional kriyas. If a person's getting emotional kriyas, then you're also going to want to look at some of the other kriya activity at the same time. Taking a full breath or shortness of breath when it comes to Kundalini heart activation. No, I wouldn't say that necessarily has to be. Maybe there's something else. Is she a smoker, or does she have a lot of anxiety? She's on caffeine. She's taking a lot of high fructose corn syrup, and all of these types of things, add in to a person's autonomic system being interrupted. And so, it depends on what her diet is too. I am not positive. I'm not getting that this is all about Kundalini with her. And I'm finding it interesting that you're mentioning a heart activation as a singular concept here, rather than just your generalized Kundalini activation. Why is the heart being targeted for activation? Would be one of my questions that I'd ask you, David. Why is the heart being targeted for activation? And what makes a person think that this is the heart activation and say not a third chakra activation? Not a fifth chakra activation. How is it? Oh, you're making it a heart activation because some emotions seem to come up? That's not necessarily a heart activation. Okay. So shortness of breath can be experienced with a person, and it doesn't need to be with a heart activation. And because emotions are coming up, doesn't necessarily need to relate to the emotional vectors either. The emotions coming up are a form of detoxification. If the person isn't getting a lot of exercise, if they're not having a high, like getting a good cardio workout and a good breathing workout, then, there can be some issues around that with regards to shortness of breath. With regards to the, there would also be an enhanced heartbeat, almost to a tachycardic state at some times, not all the time, just part of the time. Shortness of breath, I think, is very, very, it's something to look at seriously. I mean, I know that the Kundalini can take the breath away completely, and a person just stops breathing and doesn't die and is not harmed in any way, shape, or form. Now, if she's having emotional outbursts, which you're suggesting, the Kundalini can be mitigating those emotional outbursts with levels of shortness of breath. Shortness of breath can also be if she's shouting a lot or talking a lot. The shortness of breath can be a way of the Kundalini trying to curtail that aspect of her expressiveness. So basically stopping her, breaking up the emotional outburst, breaking up the syncopation of her conversation or of her speaking, and perhaps crying or yelling or shouting or whatever the case might be. And so it's very, very important, if she is having Kundalini, to take her off of the caffeine, off of the high fructose corn syrups, off of the spices, the hot spices. So you take care of that part. You keep the person well hydrated, or they keep themselves well hydrated, and they eat the watermelon. Watermelon's coming in season now. You should be able to get that in Texas. This person may need to take a break when it comes to full-on emotional outbursts. Take a break. They need to ground themselves. They need to meditate a little bit. They need to breathe, do some pranayama through the nose for, alternate nostril breathing to get some stability, to get some balance, so that you're not all, into your ego, and you're not all about what you feel is hurting you or irritating you or things of that nature. And the shortness of breath, she can control that breathing within an individual. If you truly feel that she has the Kundalini, David, then you might start bringing her into a strong practice of the safety protocols. This would be the first place I would go. The first place. And then once those protocols are in place, there should be a much less level of chaotic outbursts that may come up. If she's crying a lot, if a person's crying a lot, that's a good thing. Let them cry. Let them cry. Crying is a detoxification, and it works very well. Okay. Keep her hydrated. Keep the electrolytes good, too. Get some of that high pH water. Like Essentia has high pH water, 9.4, something like that. Okay. Thank you, David, for an excellent question. And please continue, Santara.
The next question: what is similarity and difference between ecstasy experienced in meditation and orgasm?
Ecstasy. You had a hard time saying that one. I mean,
I had a really hard time saying that one. Thank you, Chrism.
Ecstasy. So they're comparing it to sexual orgasm, right? What's the difference between the two?
Yes, when you have it in meditation and when you experience it in orgasm.
The ecstasy within the meditation or given through the divine conduit is much longer lasting, and it hits the body in a very different way. It's both of them are kind of inside out experiences. So, for instance, if you were to practice tantra, and you had a special mantra that your teacher had given you, and you're practicing tantra, and you're self-stimulating, or you're having a sexual experience with a partner, and you're both saying the mantra, and you say the mantra, and you have that orgasm, boom, and that orgasm flows out from you into the cosmos and into grace. That can be very, very powerful. That can be a very, very powerful orgasm. However, when you're sitting in meditation and divine ecstasy comes to you, it's for me, when it happens to me, I can feel it coming from a distance. It's like this waveform that my body is sensing from quite a long distance away, and it gets closer and it gets closer and it's closer, and then it just hits me, and I'm paralyzed, and my eyes roll up, and I go into ecstatic grace, and my body shakes. My memory is wiped from what I was just doing. My short-term memory is wiped. This doesn't happen with a sexual induced orgasm. And the sexually induced orgasm is very short in comparison to the meditation or the ecstatic through grace. And the ecstatic through grace puts a layer of energy upon the individual that is very strong, very, very palpable for the individual to feel. Typically, during ecstatic grace, the person is crying because the energy is so strong that the body must use the tear ducts as a way of depressurization. And in some cases, the person will be sobbing, and it must be allowed to happen. Nothing is wrong. It's just the body doing what it knows to do when it has a divine ecstasy come to it. The divine ecstasy has a very, very, very different quality. You're not ejaculating. You're not feeling the fluidic release move through the body, male or female. You're not depending on another person either, nor are you self-stimulating. It's vastly different, and yet there are seeds of similarity within the two, because with the orgasm, say even in a tantric what's the word? In the tantric idea, grace is there. Depending on your mantra that you're saying, depending on the practice that you're doing, depending on whether you've already got Kundalini activated within you, the Tantra will have grace embedded within it, but not the level of grace that is coming to you because, one, you're already activated with Kundalini or awakened with Kundalini. When you're already activated or awakening, the marriage is already taking place or it's taking place. And that's the marriage between the sacred male, sacred female, Shakti, Shiva, Jesus, Mary, use whatever religion you've got that represents male and female coming together at the top of the head. As that occurs, and as that has occurred, a direct line of communication is being given into the individual. And, depending on the individual's karma and their practice and mostly their karma will determine how strong that divine connection is. Karma is the mediator for that. But the practice and the selfless service and the love will also be a determining factor. And so that varies with each awakened person. That varies. That line of connection varies. But when that comes up, and the ecstatic wave comes to the individual, well, it can hit really strong, really hard, and for a period of time that on the one point it can be just as long as the sexual orgasm or longer, but the energetic within it, the conscious, the divine conscious blending within it, the merge into the divinity is very different. When you're already awakened, you already have that divine connection. The merging can be beyond description. Beyond description. Yeah. Excellent question. Thank you. Over.
Thank you for the next question. Can you speak about what a permanent Shaktipat is, please? What a permanent scatter field is, please.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Scatterfield. Scatterfield is a person that's composed of 17 to 26 trillion cells, the typical human body. And as genetic scientists understand that each cell within the body has the capacity that if it's extracted from the body and grown in a petri dish, an entire living person can be grown out of that one cell. And that cell, therefore, each cell has the potential for 17 to 26 trillion individuals. And what the Kundalini does is it takes the awakened potential from a single cell and transports it to 5 feet over the left shoulder of the energetic anatomy of an individual anywhere on this world, or anywhere really, and connects it to their energetic system. And this is used for transfer of Shaktipat. This is how the Shaktipat is given and governed and moderated if need be. And it's always needed. It's always, people say they want a Shaktipat, but they're not doing the practice. They're not doing anything to protect themselves from their own ego. And so, of course, the scatter field is essential to controlling or mitigating that. But when a permanent scatter field is given to an individual, it's typically given for a healing purpose. So it'd be categorized as a healing scatter field, or any of the various conditions that require a stronger level of divine communication for an individual can be given by an awakened person through their Kundalini. And I gave an individual who has had a permanent scatter field for a number of years because they have a very debilitating disease, and part of that disease is karmic, and part of that disease is psychological, and a part of that disease is physical. And so this person has been given permission through their karma to have that level of extended grace given to them as they do their safeties and as they do their work. As they do their work, they earn the right to have that continued as long as the Shakti determines it needs to be continued. And this is what a permanent scatter field is. Over.
And do you place permanent scatter fields on students' prism for reasons that would be different to healing? Like educational experiences. You bet. If they're having an educational requirement that a scatter field or a student scatter field be given, of course, absolutely. It's been a while, though, I have to say. It's been a while. Yeah. Okay, so there's another question about this person was sitting on the toilet, and as they sat there, they say, I just mentioned what I saw, which was energy moving, very intense and light. No colors directly, not like smoke or that, more like strings of light moving a bit intensive. What does that mean?
That a person can view when you're sitting on the toilet and say you turn to reach for the toilet paper or something like that, you can actually twist the spine in a certain way that releases a level of visual energy that can be seen within the inner layers of the energetic anatomy of the individual. I've seen this too. Very beautiful. For me, the light streamers were the color of the rainbow in many ways, or if you can imagine what those little red and blue neon fish look like, but they're all swimming all over the place. Or sometimes they'll come and they'll look kind of like a lit up sperm cell or something like that with a luminous tail and flying all over the room and flying in very directed, but they're like pinpoints of extremely bright light. And these features of the energetic anatomy can be greatly enhanced through the Kundalini. And they are also mitigated through whether or not that person has had orgasms lately, or if you're a man, if you have a full load of sperm or semen within the testicles, or if you're a woman, if you've had an orgasm lately. The less orgasms, the more of the energetic dynamic you'll typically view. The more orgasms you have, or a fluidic release, the less of these energetic patterns will you be able to view. This is normal. This is it's a very beautiful feature of our energetic anatomy, and it kind of shows you some of the important aspects of the gentle yogic spinal twisting that a person can do. These spinal movements can be very, very healthy for the person. Don't go overboard with them just so you can view the stuff, though. It'll just stop. It'll just stop. But when you're sitting on a toilet, you're sitting in a very, you're kind of a spinally upright position, and the feet are flat on the floor typically, and you're in a good position to view some of the features of the energetic anatomy as the spine is twisted this way or that. And sometimes this will happen if you're laying on your side in bed as well, and you reach over to turn the light off, and boom, you'll see this. Or it happens to me when I'm driving sometimes. I do the visual look when I'm making a lane change, and that means I'm twisting my body and my neck, and then boom, I'll see all these lights come floating around, and I'll have to just kind of like ignore them and look at the traffic. It happens to me various times throughout the day. It's very beautiful. I'm always grateful when I say, I thank my Shakti, my Kundalini, I thank it. It's a beautiful demonstration of the reality of the energy of grace within you. Over.
Thank you, Chrism. Next question. What does it mean when you can't feel your Kundalini that much anymore? I used to have anxiety, shooting in my spine, restless legs, waking up freezing cold in the middle of summer and so on. I don't feel any of that anymore.
I'm wondering if they're taking medications. I get kind of a medication thing about the person who's asking this question. Do you know? Do you know, Santara? Hello?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. You're yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, thank you. Your voice goes really slow, and then it comes back to regular speed. It's kind of weird. Ask the question again. Hello. Uh-oh. I may have lost Santara. Yep, sounds like it. Can't reach her. So I'm going to go over to Rosemary here. Oh, Santara, you back? No, okay. Going into the blue here. And then, Rosemary, do you have any announcements you'd like to make, my dear?
I do. I was thinking to say to all of our listeners and those in the archives that whatever stage you are in this process that you just described, I could see myself at other times in parts of that, not fully where that you've described, but the seminar that we're having in October here in Minnesota, October 28th and 29th, we welcome everyone with whatever level is their development, whatever process, to be with our teacher just as he described, and in which he is giving us that the Kundalini in those ways, and that's included in the seminar as one-on-one. And my information is, I can tell you what we have in place so far. It's not all of it, but that those dates for sure, and in Mankato, which is about an hour south of the Twin Cities. And my information is 651-329-9615, my cell phone. And my email is rosemaryg@usinternet.com. And we have Katie in Mankato working with Joey and me, so three of us will be out and about pretty soon sharing this information. So let us know if you'd like us to come to your group of friends or any group that you're part of. We'll be happy to do that.
You, Rosemary? How can they contact you?
651-329-9615, rosemaryg@usinternet.com.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Rosemary. And I'm going to see if I can reach Santara here just to see if she's reachable here. Are you there, Santara? Oh boy. Yeah. Are you hearing anything, David? Anybody in the chat room hearing anything? I'm not hearing anything. So, okay, all right, putting her in the blue.
Well, yes,
Oh, there she was a little bit.
I'm here, but you can't hear me.
Now I can hear you. Hello. Oh boy. Hey, maybe you can post some of the questions.
Okay, there's a time delay.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, but there's a time delay or something. I don't know what's going on. Okay. Here's the next question. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Chrism, are you hearing me?
Yes, I'm hearing you. Yes, I am indeed.
Okay. I'm just avoiding some questions here because actually you've answered them so many times. Like, is Reiki safe? Do you want to answer that? Or will I just move on?
Reiki is not safe.
Okay. This next one comes from the group. Today I cannot meditate. I am restless.
Oh boy.
The head pressure rises and the body itches everywhere, totally restless. If I stop meditating, I feel relatively normal.
Stop meditating. Over. There can be too much of an
Chrism,
energy.
there's a time delay. There's no point.
All right, my dear. Putting you in the blue. Here's the situation, folks. Amelia is having some technological difficulties. She's been having them for some time, and it's just basically an economic scenario where, having enough money to either buy a new laptop or fix the old laptop or some sort of a scenario, is present. I'm not, I can't speak for her in that way, but I think that, she wouldn't be, suffering so much of a technological problem if it wasn't, easily taken care of. But, not so. She says, this is not so. So I take that all back, but she says it's a mystery. She doesn't understand. She's writing here in the chat group. But we love you no matter what, my dear. We love you no matter what. And thank you for all the work that you do, putting this show together. So she's going away. So see you next week, hopefully. All right, so when you're getting pressures such as rashes, and there is a such thing as a Kundalini rash, as I've answered, a few times on this program, that you can get. It will look like a heat rash. It'll have little tiny blisters sometimes. It'll appear on any part of the body, the face, the underarms, the inner thigh, anywhere. And that's just a Kundalini rash, and it will go away in a few days. Nothing is damaged. Nothing is hurt. The body is experiencing specific levels of Kundalini increase, and the skin will respond to that increase, as with a rash, or it looks like a heat rash. With regards to getting severe head pressures or headaches, with the Kundalini, like say with meditating, you start meditating and whoa, you get that headache or you get some other kind of a pain. That is the Kundalini basically telling you to stop meditating. And a lot of the schools of thought teach people to meditate, meditate, meditate. You must meditate all the time. Well, a person will take that advice literally and begin to meditate, 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 and things will go well. Boom, their Kundalini activates. Boom, they awaken. And all of a sudden, meditation is not as needed anymore. It's not as needed. And this is a hard concept because people have been practicing the meditation for a long, long, long time. And let's see. Yes, I mean, you can ask those. Okay, all right. So the key to not having, keep writing them, Amelia. I'll read them in a second here. The key to not having some of these head pressures, some of these headaches, is to stop meditating. Step outside of the program. Once you're activated, you're beyond the programming of the uninitiated, so to speak. The great level of the masses that are not in the activation or awakening sequence. So you have to be able to have the self-control to not buy in to the habit of meditation that you have been practicing, or prayer for that matter. Prayer will do the exact same thing. Okay, and I've answered those before, so of course, that is how it is. And just to begin here, let's see, and Amelia is asking some questions. She's writing in. Here's another question from the group. May I ask then, why do you allow people to call you a master? Are they slaves? Well, I think that's kind of a silly question. Master, really in this context, is the same as maestro of a symphony. Is the tuba player the slave of the conductor in a symphony? Is the viola player a slave? Is the clarinet player a slave? Is the French horn player a slave? No. And the maestro is basically the person that's helping to organize everything. It has nothing to do with master and slave. That's a very kind of an egotistical point or reference to refer to it from. Master is also used as teacher, just like guru is also used as teacher when it actually means heavy. I didn't give myself the master identification. That was given to me by students. And I resisted it. I resisted it a lot at first, and they said, no, we we feel comfortable saying this, and so we want to use this as a way of giving you respect, and so I went ahead with it, and boy, have I run into the you know what storm because of that. Anyway, so no, master is not indicative of slaves. Let's see, and another one is secondly, she says, I've rarely found you talking or discussing darkness. Why is darkness not given the importance it deserves? You will respond that you are aware of the importance of dark. Too much light blinds a person. It's same as darkness. One cannot sit. Yes. Okay. Andrew writes, we are all slaves to Kundalini. Well, there you go. That's true enough. Slaves to Shakti. Darkness. I have talked about darkness. If you listen to the archives, you'll see that I've talked about darkness fairly. I don't focus on it necessarily. I don't. This world is full of darkness, and yet darkness is not the evil force that people like to think of it as being. It's, the seeds need darkness to germinate. They need that darkness, and the solar radiation passes through the soil into the deep, dark recesses of the earth, and the seed is allowed to germinate. And then the seed itself needs to grow through that darkness, and as that tiny plant sends down its root and then sends up its stem, it needs that darkness to stimulate it to go into the light. Well, it's the same thing with us. Same thing with Kundalini people. Darkness is not evil. Darkness is just a lack of light. Lack of light is not bad. Lack of light is beautiful. You can see the stars. It's a beautiful place to be, and it doesn't need to have a fear attachment. It's a great way to test the level of ego infatuation or insinuation that you have within your process by just going outside and walking in the dark, trusting the dark. I was going to use an example that would get me in trouble, but I'll just go ahead and do that. When a person is way, way out in the wilderness somewhere, preferably not in an area where there's like mountain lions or bears or wolves or, other like, harmful predators. I'll give you a place. Outside of Death Valley, right outside of Death Valley, California, there's this empty plain. It's this dry lake bed, and it gets really, really, really dark there. And I would take the students out there, and one by one, in the privacy of their own darkness, without a flashlight, they would undress and just start walking in some direction. And they would feel the emptiness. They would feel the darkness. They would feel the fright in some cases. They would feel the security in other cases. They would feel what it is to be without light and yet okay, without the benefit of clothing, without the benefit of protection, without the benefit of light. They would walk through that wilderness of that dry lake bed, and eventually I just light a candle and they come back, and dress and come back and talk of their experiences. And this is some of the things that I do with folks, and it's very, very, very helpful practices to begin to realize the qualities and helpful qualities of immersing yourself in the darkness, but also immersing yourself naturally into the environment in the darkness. And so not only, you've got, different pressures coming into the psychological system. You've got the fear of the dark. You've got the fear of being unclothed. You've got the fear of predation. You've got the fear. And the person is able to face those fears, albeit it's on a limited basis, and I'm not doing this every day, but I have done it, and it is helpful. It is helpful. especially if there's a wind. And of course, there's windy times out there in that part of California. And if you have the wind blowing and it totally disorients you, and it's very, very cool, very excellent practice, an excellent practice. And I find the darkness to be very, very helpful. And then let's see, we have more questions here. Yeah, we are all slaves of the Kundalini. And then it is says the Kundalini bring up negative emotions. Yes, it does. Jealousy is a big one, and it definitely brings that up, and it brings it up in hot and heavy proportions. And not letting go of hurts that other people inflicted. So forgiveness. It'll also bring up a resentment and revenge, and you must forgive these people. How do you deal with these kinds of emotions? Does the Kundalini eventually heal one completely in these areas? It will compel you to heal yourself in these areas. It will not just automatically transfer healing. Oh, there you go. You're no longer looking for revenge. You're no longer jealous. You no longer have that fear of abandonment, et cetera, and so forth. It will not just wave a hand, and it will give you the impetus to heal yourself in these areas. This is part of what it is to climb the ladder of grace into enlightenment is you actually have to climb the ladder. And climbing that ladder in this context means that you be forgiving, extremely forgiving every day, all the time, as much as your Kundalini tells you is needed for you to do. And basically that can be a lot of the time at first. And pretty soon it's not so much of the time because you've adopted an attitude of forgiveness that really begins to propel you further up that ladder of grace. And it's the same thing with the jealousy. You no longer need to be in competition with other people. You no longer need to have levels of abandonment controlling how you relate to a loved one or somebody that you want to have a relationship with. You no longer need to suffer those egocentric manifestations of fear upon you anymore. And the Kundalini will help you with that, but it will not typically solve that for you. Sometimes it will. If your karma allows that to occur, then yes, sometimes it will. But for the most part, you're going to have to make the effort to solve that issue yourself. Moving on to the next question. Does the Kundalini eventually heal one of these? No, I've already discussed that. And the Flying Sutra and Kundalini energy. What's the relation? Is it the same energy? Well, the Flying Sutra are these guys in the transcendental meditation. They in the transcendental meditation they start hopping in their meditational position across the floor, and they're calling this flying. And I guess it can be true. I mean, they're flying for about as long as you or I fly as we jump or hop across the floor. So technically, yeah, you can say you're flying because you're using energy to propel you out of Earth's gravity and into the air, to be drawn back by the gravitational force, and you land. Well, they're doing the same thing. They're just doing it in their meditational position. They think they're flying, and they think that they're skipping. And, when you look at it, they're just really putting a lot of effort into staying in that position and hopping across these really, really soft and springy mattresses that allow them to, I guess, get the feeling that they're flying. It's kind of, it's not the Kundalini at all. It's their idea of thinking that they have awakened a acidic skill through the transcendental meditative practice and techniques. It's a way of demonstrating a payoff for practicing those techniques, and it has nothing to do with Kundalini at all. Kundalini levitation is a very different deal. It doesn't take a lot of effort. You don't have to bounce across the floor on springy mattresses. You just lift off. Or if it's coming on slowly, you basically are trying to walk, and If you're trying to walk and you're levitating at the same time, you're going to fall. You might fall gently, but you're going to fall over and over and over again until you find your balance within that sitting skill. But the flying sutras are just, it's just the hubris of the ego expressing itself through transcendental meditation. And I'll probably get in trouble for saying all that, but oh well. And Amelia continues, during meditation, I had this desire to yawn, and when just add another one. Let's see. During meditation, I had this desire to yawn, and when I did this once, I had an urge to do this again and again without getting satisfaction, like you normally do when you yawn. And I had to open my mouth very wide at times. My tongue was also moving. This is a kriya. Yawning, the action of yawning is the action of balancing energy within the system. When I'm giving Shaktipat through the scatter fields, I yawn quite a bit. I yawn, and I yawn heavy and hard. I would suggest everybody within the Kundalini activation or awakening give in to their yawns. Yawn, yawn, yawn. Yawning is good. Yawning stabilizes the energetic anatomy, and it does give a feeling of satisfaction almost. If you do it enough, it will give you levels of satisfaction that actually go far beyond what your normal yawning would give. Let's see. Moving onward. Yeah. And then, the yawning will bring you to tears, and that's okay too. And don't let the action of yawning make you uncomfortable. It is normal for this process. Nothing is wrong. So nothing to fear at all. And then, and then it is a kriya, and it can last for 10 or 15 minutes, and you just let it happen. Just let the yawning happen. And I'm going to say thank you to my co-host, Amelia Santara, and don't know why we're having the technical difficulties, but we are, and we're working around them. And this level of flexibility is also very useful within the Kundalini. You may be used to tying your shoes or doing something with a certain hand, and the Kundalini will freeze the joint in that limb. You won't be able to turn your wrists, and it'll be so painful if you try. And you won't be able to say move a certain finger because it'll be so painful if you try. And this level of joint infusion, which I think I've spoken of before, is common with the Kundalini. It'll freeze your shoulder, it'll freeze your knee, it'll freeze your elbow, it'll freeze your wrist and your fingers, and you just have to figure out little workarounds for that to work for you while the Kundalini works on that level or that part of the body. Nothing is wrong. You don't need to go to the physician unless you want to. And these little workarounds also, come along with regards to technological stuff too. We got 2 minutes left, and Amelia's also writing. Does anyone know if there's some correlation between Kundalini awakening or ascension being in sync with the spring equinox? And that, of course, she's talking about my Shaktipat at the time, and there's a level of sacred mathematics that has to do with that, and the spring and the equinox, the solstice and the equinox too. And I just want to let people know that in late October, there will be a seminar in Germany, in Berlin, Germany, and you can talk with Manisha. Manisha on the Facebook group will tell you what that is. Can you send Manisha's information real quick there, Amelia? I have given one other seminar in Berlin, and things go extremely well there. And so I would like to invite anybody that can make it to the seminar in Germany at the end of October, kind of like a little bit of a Halloween Kundalini Shaktipat seminar. And there's also a seminar going on in Minnesota as well. And I actually need Manisha's number there, but I think it's going to be too late there. 15th, 16th, 17th September, and that will be in Minnesota. So that's when the Minnesota one is going on. And hope to see you there, Andrew, as you're looking at having an interest And I'm going to go ahead and end it like I started it. And here we go.